Well, we want to bring in former National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg. He's actually here with us, which is a wonderful thing. Yeah. So when you see this, and when I look at that map, I'm not a tactician, I don't know. That scares me because I think, well, that seems like it's very close to the city center, and we've been talking to so many people who are sheltering in place there, and we've become close to them. Our audience is following their stories and wanting to make sure that we keep in touch with them and that they're safe. What do you know?
I look at it just the opposite.
Okay, good.
I look at it and say, these guys, the Russians, have really stalled out. And I think they're heading for a loss. I think long term. Now, it may be a Pyrrhic victory for the Russians, meaning eventually they might take Kyiv. And they might swing and solidify all the territory near the breakout republics that are there. But this is a long-term loss for him. It's a pariah nation now. It's a pariah leader. His military has been exposed for what it is, which is really a terrible military. These are his first-line units. These are not the worst
units. These are not the conscripts that have only had 8 months of training?
No, because he's got, some of them are. Each, basically, brigade has got 3 BTRs, battalion tactical units in it. 2 of them are all professionals, they're all mercenaries, and 1 is conscript. So that may happen with conscript, but these are the best units he's got, and they're displaying tactics that just stun all of us that have watched this. The comment I used the other day was like, their tactics are IFR, I follow roads, and they're road bound. They haven't moved off of roads. They're a tempting target. If this was the United States, we would have torched that entire 40, 60 miles.
Two questions on that, General. When we went into Afghanistan, it took a while for our military to learn how to fight again. I think you would concede that, correct? But man, we got good. And we got good fast. How long has it been since this Russian army has had a sustained ground war when they're trying to take over an area the size of Texas?
Well, really, World War II. I mean, you can't count Chechnya because they used typical Russian/Soviet tactics, which was overwhelming use of artillery. The big difference is leadership. We have incredibly talented leaders at every level, stacked up from lieutenant all the way to our general officers, because we were trained for so long in it. The Russians don't do that. You know, I look at somebody like Zelensky. When you look at Zelensky and Putin, Zelensky has looked death in the face, and death just blinked, and that's Putin. I think he's got Putin on his heels, because now Putin realized he's got a very charismatic leader, a commander, a true commander-in-chief. This is somebody that if you're a military fighter in the Ukrainian military, say, I will fight for this guy. And they're not fighting for Putin. They're probably trying to figure out what the heck they're even doing in Ukraine.
Mike Tobin, our reporter in Lviv in the western part of the country earlier today, he's reporting that anytime you get a fresh shipment of AK-47s, the line is, out the door, down the street, around the corner, around the building, every single time. So we'll see what happens with this resistance if you've got 50 or 60-year-old men and women who have AK-47s in the basement. But what do you think is going on with this convoy? They're stalled for a reason. Are they resupplying? Are they out of food? Are they out of fuel? Has somebody given them an order to pause for now? What's the answer?
Well, here in Washington, D.C., if you go around the Beltway and you get stacked up, it takes forever to undo the stack. I mean, it takes forever. First of all, they stalled. They stopped. So they've lost all forward momentum of the attack. They just haven't got it left. So now they've got to get that thing going. And so what's happened is the lead part of the columns stopped, and then everybody in the back kind of ran into the back of it and is stalled out. So their momentum is stalled, and that means their commanders really can't figure out what to do. I think what Putin would like to do, Putin would like to probably hammer the Russian way of fighting is really go in and use an incredible amount of artillery into Kiev. But how that's going to look, it's going to be terrible. And it's actually a war crime. And I think now the military commanders thought this was going to be over in 3 to 4 days. It's not. So they've got a problem. They've got to adjust how they're fighting. They're proving they're unable to do that, and they have got no plan B. And they're stuck with plan A, which was encircle the city on roads. It's not going very well.
What do you know about in the EU? They said that they were going to provide planes to the Ukrainians, and apparently the pilots from Ukraine went there to get them, and they found out, oh, actually, this is not happening. That doesn't sound good.
Well, it's really unfortunate. I remember, you hear the stories of the Eagle Squadron in World War II that went to England, and there were Americans and flew for England before we entered the war. The same with when you look at what happened with the pilots we had for the Flying Tigers, the American Volunteer Force. It's too bad we don't have people willing to go right now, take some fighters and stack them up and put them on the ground. But right now, I think he's got a great chance, because when you look at the western part of Ukraine, it's all bordered by NATO nations. That equipment can flood in. Unfortunately, we should have been doing this a month ago.
Wow.
Not current.
General, we've got 100 more questions and we've got 1,000 more problems, but we'll talk to you again very soon.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
President Biden, big speech last night.